Okay, let's begin. Go ahead.
Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Shuklambaradharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna-vadanam Dhyayet Sarva-vighnopaṣāntayē. Nārayanam Padmabhuvam Vasishtam Shaktim Satat-putra-parāsharam Cha Vyāsam Shukam Gaudapadam Mahantam Govinda Yogindram Atha Asya Shishyam Govinda Yogindram Atha Sakya Shishyam Shankarācharyam Atha Asya Padmapadam Cha Hastamalatham Cha Shishyam Tam Totakam Vastikakaram Anyan Asmadgurun Santatam Anatosmi. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunakṣu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Krishna Parabrahmane Namaha. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Gita Dhyana Shlokaha. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Jyatitam Puraṇamunina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamrutavashvinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashaധ്യായിnim Ambatvāmanusandadhāmi Bhagavad-gīte Bhagavad-geshini. Namostu te Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullarvindayata Putpatranetra Yena Tvaya Bharata Kaila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Stotravetaigapadhaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gītāmritaduhe Namaha. Sarvopanishado gavo Dogdha Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsasudhir Bhokta Dugdham Gītāmritam Mahat. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsacānūramarthanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Bhishmadrona-taka Jayadrata-jala Gandhara-nilotpala Shalyagrāhavati Krupena-vahani Karnena-velakula Ashvathāma-vikarna-ghora-makara Duryodhana-vartini Gotena khalu Pandavairanam Kaivartaka-keshavaha Parāsharyavachas sarojamamalam Gītārtha-gandhotkakam Jnānākhyanaka-kesaram Harikatha-sambodhana-bodhitam Loke sajjana-shatpadairahara Pepīyamanam muda Bhūyāt bhārata-pankajam Kalimala Tadvamsina Shreyase. Mukam karoti vācālam Pangum langayate girim Yattupatamaham vande Paramananda-madhavam. Yam brahma varunendra rudramarutastunmanti divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangha-padakramopanishadaihi Gayanti yam samagaha Jnānavasthita-tadgatena manasa पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः।
We will do from verse 13th chapter, verse 21 to the end of the chapter. And when you do this, focus, two verses we'll focus, at least give attention to, is the 21st and the 26th. They are, the 14th chapter is an expansion of these two verses. We will discuss that later.
श्री परमात्मने नमः। अथ त्रयोदशोऽध्यायः क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञविभागयोगः। श्रीभगवान् उवाच पुरुषः प्रकृतिस्थो हि भुङ्क्ते प्रकृतिजान् गुणान् कारणं गुणसङ्ख्योऽयं तदसद्यो निजन्मसु उपद्रष्टामन् अनुमन्ता च भक्ता भोक्ता महेश्वरः परमात्मेति चाप्युक्तो देहेऽस्मिन् पुरुषः परः य एवं वेत्ति पुरुषं प्रकृतिं च गुणैः सह सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि न स भूयोऽभिजायते ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मना आत्मानम् आत्मना अन्ये साङ्ख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे अन्ये एवमजानन्तः कृत्वान्येभ्यः उपासते तेऽपि चापितरस्यैव मृत्युं हृतिपरायणाः यावत् सञ्जायते किञ्चित् तत्त्वं स्थावरजङ्गमम् क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञसंयोगात् तद्विद्धि भरतर्षभा समं सर्वेषु भूतेषु तिष्ठन्तं परमेश्वरं विनश्यन्तं यः पश्यति स पश्यति समं पश्यन् हि सर्वत्र समवस्थितमीश्वरं न हि नस्यात्मनात्मानं ततो याति परां गतिम् प्रकृत्यैव च कर्माणि क्रियमाणानि सर्वशः यः पश्यति यथात्मानम् अकर्तारं स पश्यति यदा भूतकृद्भावम् एकस्तमनुपश्यति तत एव च विस्तारं ब्रह्म सम्पद्यते तदा अनादित्वात् निर्गुणत्वात् परमात्मा आत्मव्ययः परमात्मा अयमव्ययः शरीरस्थोऽपि कौन्तेय न करोति न लिप्यति यथा सर्वगतं सौक्ष्म्यात् आकाशं नोपलिप्यते सर्वत्रावस्थितो देहे तथात्मानोपलिप्यते यथा प्रकाशयत्येकः कृत्स्नं लोकमिमं रविः क्षेत्रं क्षेत्री तथा कृत्स्नं प्रकाशयति भारत क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञयोरेवम् अन्तरं ज्ञानचक्षुषा भूतप्रकृतिमोक्षं च ये विदुर्यान्ति ते परम् ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञविभागयोगो नाम त्रयोदशोऽध्यायः।
Okay. We will, for the next class, Shanti, you will be here. to do the opening prayer? Anti,
Next week, next Sunday, 25th, right?
Saturday.
Oh, 24th. Yeah, I can do.
Okay, you do the opening prayer, starting with verse 26 of the 13th chapter, and then I will tell you where we end today. That's where you.
36 of 13. He said.
Yeah, 26th of 13.
26 of 13. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Let me put it on the slideshow. So we have completed the 13th chapter, a very interesting chapter, a lot of meaning. Kshetra, Kshetragna, Vibhāga, Yoga, Kshetra and Kshetragna. Now, I said we will focus on the two verses, that is the 21st verse, Purushaha Prakritistohi Bhunke Prakritan Gunan Karanam Gunasangosya Sat Asat Yoni Janmasu. So this Purusha, he is resident in the Prakriti. Being resident in the Prakriti, the verse says, Bhunke Prakritijan Gunan. He enjoys the gunas of the Prakriti. So, because of this association with the guna, Karanam Guna Sangosya, because of the association with the guna, Sat Asat Yoni Janmasu, he takes birth in higher or lower forms of life. That's the basic general meaning. So, what is this guna and what kinds of guna are there? When he says it binds him in the birth in higher or lower birth, that means how does the guna bind him in this samsara? The guna is an aspect of the prakriti. He enjoying the prakriti gunas. How does he really get himself bonded into this samsara, and how to overcome that? How to overcome the gunas and get liberated? And when he gets liberated, what is his behavior? How does he really detach himself from the guna? And how does he look like? How does he behave? That is being discussed in the 14th chapter. That's one aspect of it. Then I said the other one verse is Yavat 26th verse, Yavat Sanjayate Kinchit Sattvam Stavara Jangamam Kshetra Kshetragna Samyoga Tadvitti Bharatarshaba. Whatever is born is among these Sattva, Stavara and Jangama, animate and inanimate. There is a combination of Kshetra and Kshetragna. He says, so that is a union of the Kshetra and the Kshetragna gives rise to various entities. Now, there is a doubt here. This is kind of a Sankhya statement where the Paramatma has no role in it. That is, Kshetra and Kshetragna, they join together, and then there is a being, animate being or inanimate being, whatever that be. And that verse does not clarify the role of the Paramatma in there. And therefore, this 14th verse addresses that right in the beginning itself. That's the commentary that Shankaracharya has given on that. So, how is it that what is not evident in the 26th verse is really the fact is made clear in the first three verses of this 14th chapter, and we will look into it as we go into this, dwell into this work in this chapter of the Guṇa Traya Vibhāga Yoga. This 14th chapter is named as Guṇa Traya Vibhāga Yoga, the yoga of the three gunas, differentiated three gunas. This is so that means Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. We'll see later on. So these three gunas are responsible for how we are enjoying this universe, this Jagat, this life, and how we make ourselves subject to another birth. That is what is going to be discussed. Let me just off this panel here. Shri Bhagavan Param Bhuyah Pravakshami Jnananam Jnanamuttamam Yajñātvā Munayas Sarve Param Siddhimito Gataha Bhuyaha Pravakshami Jnananam Jnanam Uttamam. I am going to tell you, I am going to teach you again. See, this is already been said earlier. This is a reinforcement of his compassion to the student. I will teach this to you again. There are some new things also along the way, but I will tell you this jnana. Where was this jnana discussed? It was discussed in the second chapter. Sankhya Yoga was discussed. It was discussed in the 12th chapter, Bhakti Yoga. It was discussed there. So this jnana has been discussed earlier. Now I will discuss again with you. I will teach you again this jnana from the perspective of the Guṇa. That is what it does not come out and say that here, but that is how this jnana and Guṇa are associated, or how they can be separated. That is how we will look at this. So this supreme knowledge of all knowledges. There are various kinds of knowledges. There is physics knowledge, there is mathematics knowledge, there is the zoology knowledge, or the arts knowledge, etc., etc. So of all these, I will tell you the most supreme of all these. Yat param jnanam jnatva. That yat param jnatva means param is referred to as jnanam. Yes, that supreme, knowing that supreme knowledge. Sarve munayaha itaha gataha param siddhim. So they all say, knowing that all these munis, who is a muni, we will come to understand that later on. All sages liberated from this world, once having known this association or knowing jnana, they are liberated from this world, having attained that supreme knowledge. So supreme self-knowledge. The self-knowledge is called itself a supreme. They are interchangeable words here. Supreme or self-knowledge in this verse refers to the same entity. They are not, one is an adjective of the other, not to be treated like that. This knowledge, once it is there, there's only one entity then. There is no cause for any adjective or anything. Therefore, supreme or self-knowledge, that state when he reaches, how does he look like? That is what we will see in this chapter that Krishna is saying. I will teach you once again the supreme knowledge of all knowledges, knowing which the sages have achieved that perfection. Perfection of jnana. Perfection of jnana leads to the moksha. So I will teach you how they have gotten out of this bondage of samsara. From here means itaha. Is it in this one? Param siddhim itaha gataha. They have gone from here. Here means we have to understand samsara. So they have escaped from the bondage of samsara, knowing what? Knowing this jnana. That's the general meaning. So this param is to be understood as jnana. There is no difference between para and jnana. So this has been described only in this context. In some other context, param represents an adjective, but in this context, it is to be understood as jnana itself. So though this has been described earlier, Krishna says, like in the second and the 12th chapters, and in between also here and there, Krishna is saying, I will teach you again. Now, what is that jnana that is the supreme of all jnanas? There are various kinds of jnanas, we said. So there is this one jnana, the supreme jnana. If you get that, you will escape out of this bondage. So what is that jnana? Arjuna last says, I will teach you again. You have learned it, but I will put this to you in a different context so that whatever doubts you may have, that you will get cleared. So the supreme knowledge pertaining to Paramatma. So the knowledge that pertains to the Paramatma is the supreme knowledge. That is the para. This knowledge is superior to all knowledge of yajna, karma, etc. So you have the various yajnas, various karmas, pujas, everything. You have knowledge of that also. But that knowledge will not take you to where Krishna says this knowledge of Paramatma takes you. That is why it is called para. So it is the supreme knowledge of all knowledges, various science knowledge, arts knowledge, all those things, because it alone has the highest possible fruit. Now we can, if we go after the knowledges of the universe, the object knowledge we can call, the object being physics is an object, knowledge of physics is an object knowledge. It gets us some benefit, but it does not get the highest possible benefit, highest possible fruit. So the highest possible fruit is discussed as the moksha or liberation. Attaining this knowledge, the sages attain to the ultimate benefit. So this is, they have already itagataha, they are already gone from the samsara. That when we say that they are already escaped from the samsara, that means there's a data point there, there's a proof there that this knowledge will take them away from the samsara. This is not something as a hypothesis, said as a hypothesis, but it has already been proved that the knowledge of the Paramatma will get the highest possible fruit, and that highest possible fruit is the liberation from the samsara. Now, in the 13th chapter, he taught this, the nature of jnana, amanitvam, adamritvam, ahimsa, kshanti, rajyavam. That is not what he is really indicating here, because that is the means. That is, the means was indicated as the knowledge there to let the student know that how you have to proceed. That now, in here, he is giving a slightly different form of this knowledge here. This is the cause of moksha. What is it? Yajna, dana, tapas. Now, how do we get amanitva, adamritva? By doing yajna, dana, tapas in a particular way. So the yajna, dana, tapas becomes the source of understanding or living the life of amanitva, adamritva, ahimsa, Shanti, Arjava, all those 20 different characteristics defined in the 13th chapter. That does not just come by itself. You have to work for that. And that work that you have to do is yajna, dana, and tapas, he says. If you do yajna, dana, and tapas, then you develop this habit of, or this behavior pattern of amanitva, adamritva, etc. And then you will attain to the jnana. Therefore, to induce Arjuna in this path, that this alone is responsible for liberation, he has praised this knowledge. This is the para, this is the highest. He has praised it like that. So, having known this, the sages, the renounced people, have attained to this highest benefit of moksha. Arjuna, don't think I am telling you something which is untested. This is already been tested, time tested. It has been experienced by the sages that they have escaped this samsara, the cycle of birth and death, by knowing this knowledge. So, having these well accomplished sages, having attained this knowledge, they have gone out of this transmigration. Itahagataha, from here, they have moved out. They don't take birth anymore. So how does the Purusha, the Kshetrajna, overcome the bondage of Prakriti? See, that was the 21st verse we started with reading today. Purushaha Prakritisto hi bhukte Prakritijan Guṇan Karanam Gunasangosya Satta Satyoni Jagmaso. So he is in the bondage of Prakriti. Now, how does this Purusha overcome this bondage? What is the union of Purusha and Prakriti? Purusha is sentient and Prakriti is inert. We know that. Now we are all Purushas because we have the sentiency in us to know what is happening within the body and outside the body. So itaha indicates this bondage, this samsara. So a muni is one who discriminates from sat and asat and will dwell on the sat alone, free of attachment, fear, and anger. So the definition of muni is also indicated here, That is, how do we, we are not munis now. How do we get to the state of muni? And to do that, he says, first you have to understand the real and the unreal, Sat and Asat, and classify the Sat and Asat as two different entities. The Sat is the existence and the Asat is the non-existence. So it's real and unreal. And you detach yourself from the Asat, the unreal, the non-existence. You dwell on the Sat alone. That is what a Muni is. When he practices that knowledge from this, understanding the Sat, the Paramatma, then he will get to the knowledge of the self, the knowledge of the Paramatma, and then he will be escaping this bondage of birth and death. So this is how this is accomplished. That will start from the next verse of this chapter. Overcome bondage. It's bound to happen, he says. It is not just a theory or proposal. It is bound to happen if you follow this practice a Muni has followed in the past. Param bhuyaha pravakshyami.
Param bhuyaha pravakshyami. Param bhuyaha pravakshyami.
Jnananam jnanam uttamam.
Jnananam jnanam uttamam. Jnananam jnanam uttamam.
Yat jnatva munayaha sarve.
Yat jnatva munayaha sarve. Yat jnatva munayaha sarve.
Param siddhim itaha gataha.
Param siddhim yitah gataha. Param siddhim yitah gataha.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Param bhuyah pravakshami. Jnananam jnanam uttamam. Yajnatva munayas sarve. Param siddhimito gataha.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Param bhuyah pravakshyami. Jnananam jnanamuttamam. Yajnatva munayas sarve. Param siddhimito gataha. Param bhuyah pravakshyami. Jnananam jnanamuttamam. Yajnatva munayas sarve. Param siddhimito gataha.
Idam jnanamupashritya mama sadharmyam agataha sarge pinopajayante pralayena vyathanti cha. Idam jnanam upashritya, having taken refuge in this knowledge of the Paramatma, knowledge of the self, mama sadharmyam agataha, the seekers have attained to me. They have attained to me, sargena upajayante. Once they have attained to me, they will not be born in the beginning of creation. Pralayena api na vyatanti cha. Will not suffer during dissolution. During the time of dissolution, there is a lot of pralaya. There is a lot of pain, because the entire, you think of the tsunami or the hurricane or forest fires. How much of suffering is there in those happenings in nature? Now, when it is pralaya, you multiply it 1,000,000 times probably. That is how everybody is subject to this pralaya, this dissolution, and they will not suffer during this dissolution because they have gone beyond the prakriti. That is all these things are happening in the prakriti, and having escaped from the prakriti, they are not touched by it. So seeking the support of this knowledge and uniting with me, they neither take birth in the creation nor die in dissolution. So they are totally out of this prakriti. How that he says, practicing this means of jnana, this Paramatma jnana, the sages have attained to my form. Sadharma means, see, his dharma and he are not separate. That is what is being given in this verse. My form, they have attained to my form. That means they are me. There is no difference between that Muni who has attained to that sadharma and me, this one and the same. So sadharma means his form, not attaining to his dharma. His dharma is not different from him. But this is the essential treatment of Bhagavad Gita. He has not differentiated between Kshetrajna and Ishvara. Kshetrajna is Ishvara. Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva bhavena bharata, like that he says in the 13th chapter. So Kshetrajna and Ishvara are one and the same. So that Kshetrajna, when he attains this knowledge, knower of that Kshetra, then he is Ishvara alone. That is the dharma of the Ishvara. The Ishvara and dharma are one and the same. So this statement to show Arjuna the valuable role of jnana. So the attaining this jnana, you attain me. You attain my dharma means you attain me. Saying that dharma is not different from me. He has clarified here that there is no more birth and death. And if you see, if the Paramatma has a birth and death, that becomes his dharma. That Paramatma itself is the dharma. He has no more birth and death. So the knowledge propounded here takes from the asat to sat, from the unreal to the real. That is what we studied in the first verse here, that they go from the sat to asat to sat. So this asat is ignorance and sat is consciousness. Sat is consciousness. Sattvam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. So that consciousness is sat. They are the three characteristics and they are not different. That is the dharma of the Paramatma is the Paramatma itself. So the benefit being, what is it? Attaining to Paramatma, experiencing that Satyam Shivam Sundaram, experiencing that auspiciousness and release from the rebirth and no suffering at the time of dissolution. Those are the three benefits that Munis who have attained to me are enjoying, and you are equally qualified to enjoy that if you get to this jnana. So the charcoal example, the charcoal thrown into fire becomes fire itself. So the person who reaches the Paramatma reaches the Paramatma's dharma, which is Paramatma itself. So they are not by being born again, is being restated. So this union of Kshetra and Kshetrajna is responsible for the beings is described in the next verse. So the Kshetra and Kshetrajna are two entities. Now, without Kshetrajna, if he knows what Kshetra is, then from the perspective of the Paramatma, that he is the Paramatma, then there is no more birth. But if the Kshetrajna is only interested in the object knowledge, then he takes a birth again. Idam jnanam upashritya.
Idam jnanam upashritya. Idam jnanam upashritya.
Mama sadharmyam agataha.
Mama sadharmyam agataha. Mama sadharmyam agataha.
Sarge api na upajayante.
Sarge api na upajayante. Sarge api na upajayante.
Pralayena vyatanti cha.
Pralayena vyatanti cha. Pralayena vyatanti cha.
Idam jnanam upashritya. Mama sadharmyam agataha. Sarge pinopajayante. Pralayena vyatanti cha.
Idam jnanamupashritya mama sadharmyamagataha sarge pinopajayante pralayena vyatanti cha. Idam jnanamupashritya मम साधर्म्यमागताः सर्गेऽपि नोपजायन्ते प्रलयेन व्यथन्ति च
1 and 2. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Param Bhuyah Pravakshyami Jnananam Jnanamuttamam Yajñātvā Munayah Sarve Param Siddhimito Gataha Idam Jnanamupashritya Mama Sadharmyamagataha Sargepi nopajayante Pralayena vyatanti cha Mama yonirmahat brahma Tasmin garbham dadhamyaham Sambhava sarva bhutanam Tato bhavati bharata. This verse describes that creation, how the creation happens is being discussed here. Bharata, that's Arjuna, Mama Yoni Mahat Brahma, my form of the source of Prakriti is the womb of all beings. Tasmin aham garbham dadhami, I impregnate with the aggregate form of sentiency. Tataha sarvabhutanam sambhavaha bhavanti. By the union of that inert and sentiency, all beings come into being. Now, here, the only Paramatma exists at that time, but he has identified two aspects of him. So one is the Prakriti, that is the one that is having these gunas that we'll be discussing later on, and his consciousness. The Paramatma has these two aspects. Now, in these two aspects, what he does is, he says here, I will impregnate this sentiency in this Prakriti. Prakriti is, we know, inert. Prakriti by itself cannot do anything. But I impregnate this Prakriti with sentiency. He has chosen to describe like this because probably that we are all exposed to how new beings come into existence by the union of the male and the female. The next generation is created. Now, he is using that analogy here. He exists. There is no possibly an action like impregnation. It is only described here as a metaphor. So, the Upanishads describes as ikshate. He just sees the Prakriti. That itself starts the process. That is how the Upanishads describe it there. And so here he says, my womb is that Mahat Prakriti. In the 7th chapter, we discussed this Prakriti, Mahat, Ahankara, Manas, and the sense various 5 elements coming, all that. That Mahat is the potential form of all living beings of the past creation. So my womb is the Mahat Prakriti. In that womb, where everybody is waiting in the potential form, they are awaiting the next creation. I sow the seed, and the seed is of the form of sentiency. So all beings are born thereafter. So the first creation happens with my interaction with the Prakriti. Now, this is where the difference between the 3rd chapter, 26th verse, and here comes. Here is very clearly indicated that I have a role in this. The Paramatma, the Purusha has a role in it, whereas the Kshetrajna Samyoga, the Bharatashabha in the 26th verse of the 13th chapter, that is not cleared. That is, it happens by itself between the Kshetra and Kshetrajna is discussed. So that is the here that this is a Vedantic expression, and that is regarded as a Sankhya expression. So the Maya, which is my subordinate, the Maya, Prakriti are identical terms. They call it Prakriti in Sankhya and Maya in Vedanta. So the Maya, which is my subordinate, this is composed of the 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Where is the sattva, rajas, and tamas coming in that prakriti? Because the beings of the past creation have had sattva, rajas, and tamas. The objects of the previous creation had sattva, rajas, and tamas, and they have all at the time of dissolution of the past creation have all merged into a solid lump, if you will, and that is in the waking stage here for the next creation, and therefore those gunas that were there in the previous creation, they have been a part of this prakriti, which is in a waking state for the next creation. Where did the gunas of the past previous creation happen? It comes from the previous creation. Like that, there is a beginningless creation process, and the gunas are there with it from the beginning. So the prakriti or the maya is the source of all beings. So that source is called Mahat. Mahat is one of the entities, the first entity coming out of the Prakriti at the time of creation. And that Mahat is also described as the intellect because it is the largest effect of Brahma and contains all other effects. From this Mahat comes the ahankara, the manas, the various five elements, akasha, vayu, anila, then water up, and prithvi, and then all the beings come into existence. So this Mahat is the largest effect. The source is the Paramatma, Karana, and the Mahat is the Karya, effect. And from that Karana, from that Karya, all other Karyas like you and me and our sense organs, our motor organs, everything are effect. So they all come into existence. So Mahat Brahma is Prakriti. Mahat Brahma, he says in the verse, Mahat Brahma is Mahat Brahma. So the Prakriti is the potential state of all jivas awaiting next creation. At the end of this dissolution, we will go into the Prakriti in the waiting state, and we will be waiting for the next creation for the Paramatma to impregnate that Prakriti with that sentiency. See, that Prakriti will be only the inert material. So that inert material has to be associated with the sentient entity, and that Paramatma will again impregnate that with that sentient entity, and then the next creation process starts. So this Mahat Brahma is also called Avyakta or Maya. So and this, he says, is my womb, because that is the one. See, the analogy is taken of the human or the animal or the entire living being situation, that the womb is the one that carries the eggs, and then that egg is impregnated, and then there is a creation of the next, the baby of that particular living being. So that example is taken. So that Prakriti is my womb. Mahat Brahma is to be understood as Avyakrita. Avyakrita and Avyakta are just one and the same. My best understanding is Avyakrita is used in the Vedantic sense, whereas Avyakta is this Sankhya form. So this is called Mahat and Brahma as follows. What is it? It's called Mahat because the Avyakrita composed of the three proclivities, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, being bigger than its effects like Akasha. See, from the Mahat comes Akasha, from the Akasha comes the Vayu, from the Vayu comes fire, etc. They are all effects. They are all effects of the Mahat, whereas the Mahat itself is the effect of the Paramatma. So the Paramatma, this which is this Abhyakrita, which is Mahat, Mahat Brahma is the Prakriti, inert material that is composed of all the material that is required for the creation of the universe. So that's the raw material. This Mahat or Mahat Brahma is the raw material out of which the universe is created. So the Avyakrita is the source of the first effect Mahat, and thereafter is also called Mahat Brahma. So this Mahat Brahma includes everything. Everything inanimate is included in this Mahat Brahma. And the Paramatma has called it, this is the yoni. What does it say? Tasmin mama yonir Mahat Brahma, tasmin garbham dadamyam. My yoni or my womb is this Mahat Brahma, which is the Prakriti or the Maya, and all the other beings, Sambhava Sarvabhutanam Tato Bhavati Bharata. From this initial womb, or the first womb, the Mahat Brahma, all other successive generations of species will come into existence. So in that Mahat, I place the seed of creation, out of which the Hiranyagarbha was born. Hiranyagarbha is the, if I want to describe it, is the aggregate mind of all of us in when we are recreated. Now all our mind, when at the time of dissolution, the mind that we have, they become coalesced into a single entity. Now with the prospect of a next creation, when the Paramatma impregnates it, then that entire entity comes into life. That is Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha is another name for creator Brahma. So it is at this point, you have to note that there is no creation yet. You and I, the individual creation has not come into existence yet. That can happen only when the raw materials are differentiated. They are not in a differentiated state yet. It's all in the aggregate state. In that womb, the Lord says, I will sow the seed, or I will impregnate that womb. Then follows the creation of all beings. From that, Sarvabhutanam Tato Bhavati. From that, all the other beings come into existence. So these beings who are animate, inanimate, which are in the Paramatma, which are in potential form in the Prakriti, is residing in the Paramatma alone. There is this Mahat is residing. It is also, it's part of him itself. In a way, they say it is the adjunct, like the Atma that I am. My adjunct is this physical body, and together we become the Jivatma. Like that, Paramatma, when he has the adjunct of this inanimate and animate entities of the Prakriti, then he is called Ishvara. Ishvara is the equivalent of the you and me, even that consciousness has the adjunct of the entire Prakriti. You and I have the adjunct of a single body, whereas the Ishvara has the adjunct of the entire Prakriti. And the Lord sets in motion the creation, what he calls as impregnation, Garbham Dadami. So the Ishvara that I am, that Ishvara has two powers, Kshetra and Kshetrajna. Kshetrajna is the consciousness, and the Kshetra is the entire Prakriti. So your Kshetra and my Kshetra is this body, and the Kshetrajna that is in the in you and me is a combination of this body and my Atma. For Ishvara, this consciousness, same consciousness that you and I have, the same consciousness Ishvara has, that is what makes Tattvamasi true. So that the kshetras are different, the adjuncts are different for you and me from the Paramatma. We have a limited adjunct, whereas the Paramatma has the infinite adjunct. So I will make the Kshetrajna combine with the Kshetra. It is the consciousness that can make the Kshetra and Kshetrajna combine, but not just the Kshetra alone. It cannot do that. The inanimate cannot do that. So this union of Kshetra and Kshetrajna is described as subordinate to Ishvara in this verse. That this union happens because of the presence of the Paramatma, whereas the 1326 does not indicate that. It is supposed to be indicating that they are independent of the Kshetra, the Paramatma, but here that is made clear that it is happening because of the role of the Paramatma, that is the Ishvara. They are subordinate to Ishvara. So Arjuna, the creation of all beings happens through the creation of Hiranyagarbha. At first, evolute coming from the association with the Prakriti, the Purusha's association with the Prakriti, that Hiranyagarbha is generated, and from that evolute, from that in the entire creation moves forward. Mama yonihi mahat brahma.
Mama yonihi mahat brahma. Mama yonihi mahat brahma.
Tasmin garbham dadami aham.
Tasmin garbham dadhami aham. Tasmin garbham dadhami aham.
Sambhavaha sarvabhutanam.
Sambhavaha sarvabhutanam. Sambhavaha sarvabhutanam.
Tataha bhavati bharata.
Tataha bhavati bharata. Tataha bhavati bharata.
Mama yonir mahat brahma. Tasmin garbham dadhamyaham. Sambhava sarvabhutanam. Tato bhavati bharata.
Mama yonirmahad brahma. Tasmin garbham tadhamyaham. Sambhavah sarva bhutanam. Tato bhavati bharata. Mama yonirmahad brahma. Tasmin garbham dadhamyaham. Sambhavah sarva bhutanam. Tato bhavati bharata.
1, 2, and 3. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Param Bhuyah Pravakshami Jnananam Jnanamuttamam Yajñātvā Munayas Sarve Param Siddhimito Gataha Idam Jnanamupashritya Mama Sadharmyam Agataha Sarge Pinopajayante Pralayena Vyatanti Cha Mama Yonir Mahat Brahma Tasmin Garbham Dadhamyaham Sambhava Sarva Bhutanam Tato Bhavati Bharata. So he says here, this is the initial garbha, that is pregnancy that I offer, and then all other beings are born. There is the chain process going further down. That is described in the 4th verse. Sarvayo nishu kaunteya murtaya sambhavantiya tasam brahma mahadyoni aham bija pradapita. So yaha murtayaha sarvayonishu sambhavanti. Those being born with body in varieties of wombs, sarvayonishu, in all kinds of wombs, mahat brahma tasam yonihi. Prakriti is the womb of all, that is the source. So the womb is also described as the source. So this Prakriti is the source of all those wombs that are going to exist later on as the creation proceeds. Aham bija pradaha pita. I am the father sowing the seed. Because I sowed the seed of the sentiency in this Prakriti, I become the father of all the various species that come out of this Mahat Brahma, this source that is responsible for the creation of all different species. The beings born of all wombs have their origin in the womb of Mahat. That is the first womb out of which comes all other various aspects of the species of life. I am the father placing the seed. If I did not place the seed in that Mahat, there will be no creation, but I help make that creation. So the beings possessing a born in the wombs of divinities, males, humans, animals. These are various species of beings. Males are the pitras, human beings, animals, birds. So to those beings, the Mahat Brahma, that is the Prakriti, is the source womb. From their creation started. So in that sense, the Prakriti is the cosmic mother of all different species. taking birth in individual wombs, and Ishvara is the cosmic father seeding the individual wombs. Now, what are these various species? The Hindu Dharma speaks of 8.4 million wombs in the Brahmanda. That is 84 lakhs. 84 lakhs of different species, out of which each species brings forth many of those species. Human beings bring forth many human beings. Birds bring forth many birds, and fishes bring forth many fishes, like that. So 8.4 million species are emanates are the evolutes of this Brahmanda, this womb, Mahat Brahma. So humans, celestials, males, etc. The Mahat is the source or the womb for all these 8.4 million species. That is the cosmic mother. The cosmic mother, Mahat Brahma, issues for these 8.4 million species. And the Lord is the one responsible for making that happen, and therefore he is described as the Father. The Ishvara that I am is the father, offering pregnancy by placing the seed. Now, in the 7th chapter, there is a verse, Aham Krishnasya Jagataha Prabho Pralayastata. I am the source of birth of this universe, is explained here. That how that time, at that point, it was only a statement. He did not give more, details of that particular creation. I am the father of that universe. He mentioned that, and now after describing Kshetra and Kshetrajna, the various Kshetras, he is now making that connection between that verse, Aham Krishnasya Jagataha, to this verse, Mama Yonir Mahat Brahma. So the Ishvara sows the seed of sentiency in the inert Prakriti. The inert Prakriti by itself cannot proceed with a creation. It needs the help of a sentiency, and that sentiency is Ishvara. Now, an example is given. The waves are the natures of the ocean. There's no difference between the water of the ocean and the waves. Waves are water. So the individual jiva is of the nature of Ishvara. So this is how this Tattvamasi is being stated in our scriptures. So the sentiency in me and the sentiency in Ishvara is both are sourced in the consciousness. The consciousness creates a certain sentiency in your mind, in my mind, and Ishvara's mind, if you will. That is the Hiranyagarbha. And then that is the common link between us and the Ishvara. Consciousness being the same, it has different capabilities in the mind. The aggregate mind has a different capability than my mind and your mind. For that matter, the capability of your mind and my mind are different. And depending on the capability of your mind and my mind, I, as a Jivatma, as a Kshetrajna, have a different way of conducting my life, and you have a different way of conducting your life. But the common link between all these entities is the consciousness, and how you and I are different. Why this difference comes to me, my capability is different and your capabilities are different. That is being described in the next verse as sourced in the gunas. It is the gunas, that guna combination, guna distribution in you and me, that make you and me function differently in this universe, in this world. And that is going to be discussed in the next verse. Sarva yonishu kaunteya.
Sarva yonishu kaunteya. Sarva yonishu kaunteya.
Murtayaha sambhavantiyaha.
Murtayaha sambhavantiyaha. Murtayaha sambhavantiyaha.
Tasam brahma mahat yonihi.
Tasam brahma mahat yonihi. Tasam brahma mahat yonihi.
Aham bija pradapita.
Aham bija Prada Pita. Aham Bija Prada Pita.
Sarvayonishu Kaunteya Murtayaha Sambhavantiyaha Tasam Brahma Mahadyonihi Aham Bija Pradapita.
Sarvayonishu Kaunteya Murtaya Sambhavanti Yaha Tasam Brahma Mahadyonihi Aham Bija Pradapita. Sarvayonishu Kaunteya Murtaya Sambhavanti Yaha Tasam Brahma Mahadyonihi Aham Bija Pradapita.
2, 3, and 4. Idam Jnanamupashritya
Mama Sadharmyamagataha Sarge Pinopajayante Pralayena Vyatanti Cha Mama Yo Nirmahat Brahma Tasmin Garbham Dadhamyaham Sambhavah Sarvabhutanam Tato Bhavati Bharata Sarvayonishu Kaunteya Murtaya Sambhavanti Yaha Tasam Brahma Mahadyonihi Aham Bija Pradapita.
Tattvam Rajastama iti Guna Prakriti Sambhavaha Nibadnanti Mahabaho Dehe Dehinam Aukyayam. Sattvam Rajaha Tamaha iti Gunaha. The proclivities of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, Prakriti Sambhavaha, born of nature. Mahabaho Arjuna, Avyayam Dehinam Dehe Nibadnanti. Avyaya is this immutable Atma, Jivatma. If you will, there's no difference between those two per se. So this Guna will bind the Jivatma in the body. Will bind the Atma in the body, if you say, is also okay. But more specifically, the word Jivatma is used because it is the association of the body and the consciousness. So, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas are the proclivities in nature which bind the immutable embodied in the body. Now, I said earlier, in that Prakriti, the Sattva, Rajas and Tamas is in there. And that Sattva, Rajas and Tamas being the source follows through in the effect also. Like the gold is the source, and the gold ornaments would have only gold and not silver in there. So like that, the proclivities of Sattva and Tamas being in the Prakriti, all the evolutes of the Prakriti would have the same proclivities, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And in that sense, see, the fishes have so the species of fishes has a certain proclivity distribution. The species of human beings has a certain proclivity distribution. And then the species of divinities, Indra, Varuna, etc., they have a different distribution of proclivities. So it is the difference in the proclivities that make the different species different, but the consciousness in all of them is the same. So the gunas having the excuse me. So the gunas having the name Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, they are technical terms. They are not the qualities that accompany or characterize materials. Like we say gold is malleable. That's a characteristic of that's a guna, the quality of that particular gold there. But it is not to be considered like that. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas are independent entities in the Prakriti. So those gunas, one who has the guna is called a guni. Guna and guni are not described here. That is how not it is described here. There's a Nyaya Shastra describes it as guna and guni have inherent relationship. That is not what is stated here. The gunas are there in every being, and that Guṇa does not make him a Guni in the sense of the Nyaya Shastra, but the understanding here should be such that they are there, and there is no describing that as anything other than that. So the gunas are the product of ignorance and appear to be always subordinate to kshetrajna. That means kshetrajna is the sentiency. So the gunas are the subordinate to kshetrajna, means the kshetrajna has a way, has a means for changing the guna in the body. So if the guna is independent, you and I would just continue to do the same thing again and again and again without any change, like a machine. That is not that's not the case here. Kshetrajna, if you and I make up our mind, we can change the guna combination in us. That is what makes us the intelligent beings. And whereas the animals, like a snake, is hardwired with a certain guna that that has no ability to make change in it. But whereas the human beings are endowed with an intellect, we can recognize that there is something right or wrong, and accordingly, when we act in certain ways, the guna distribution in us changes. That is how we will understand this. Therefore, is said to bind the kshetrajna. So the gunas bind the kshetrajna because the kshetrajna has chosen to be bonded by the gunas. So the gunas manifest by the support of kshetrajna and is therefore described as binding kshetrajna. So the kshetrajna can make that support different, and the gunas will be different. So the at the time of in the Prakriti, when it is in the state of Traya, they are in the potential state, the equilibrium of the gunas in that Prakriti is that's called an equilibrium state. 33 and 1/3% sattva, 33 and 1/3% rajas, and 33 and 1/3% tamas. All of them are in that state of potential state of Prakriti. But what makes the gunas different in various species is the creation process. So it separates out. It gives more sattva, apportions more sattva to the divinities, and it apportions less sattva to the animals, and more tamas to the animals, and less tamas to the divinities. Like that, there's an apportionment happening based on what is the purpose of creation. See, the creation cannot happen just for the sake of creation. Creation has to be to give me and you an opportunity to work out our karma. In order to work out our karma, we have to have a body. And that body has to have a certain distribution of gunas. And that is how the gunas get distributed at the time of creation, depending on the karmas of the people in the potential state. A universe is designed by the Lord to accommodate what karma you and I have to enjoy. And accordingly, we will be born as, if most of us have done only negative activities in this life, the next life, most likely, we will all be born as animals, and then there will be more tamas distribution there. So like that, the guna distribution happens because of our past activities or past karmas. So they are the products created of Maya. Maya of Bhagavan, it appears to bind the immutable Dehi or Atma. The Atma is present in all beings. So the Maya and the creation process creates certain products, and that product ultimately becomes the bodies of the various animals and humans, etc., to enjoy their karma, the karma phala that is due to them. They are entitled to that karma. You and I did some karma in our past creation, and we are in a waiting period to experience those karma phalas. and we are entitled to that karma phala. And being entitled to that karma phala, there must be a universe, a jagat that is consistent with your karma and my karma, and that is what is happening here in this creation process. So the 24 entities in the body, we went through the earlier in the Sankhya system, the 24 entities, the 5 elements, then the manas, the 5 elements, and then the 5 sense organs, 5 motor organs, 5, the manas, buddhi, prana, 5 pranas, and manas, buddhi, and ahankara. Those and the sentiency. Those 24 elements of the creation is characterized of these. All these 24 entities have this sattva, rajas, and tamas in different proportions. The entities of the body in association with the proclivities. So you and I have got a body which is made up of these 24 entities, and those 24 entities have certain gunas or the proclivities, and they appear to impact the seed of Paramatma. So what is the seed of Paramatma in you and me? That's the consciousness. Now this consciousness is reflected in the mind, and that is what we call the sentiency. Now, depending on how much sattva guna I and you have, that reflection is different between you and me. And that is what is being stated here. The entities of the body, that is the mind, in association with the proclivities, appear to impact the seed of Paramatma, covering the real nature of Paramatma and binding him in the body. An example is given. The example makes it clear. Now, the cloud covering the sun, it does not affect the sun. The sun does its job as usual. So the consciousness, these gunas appear to impact the seed of Paramatma is only an appearance. It does not in any way affect the consciousness. Like the cloud does not cover the, it does not have any impact on the sun. But the people living below the cloud appear to think that the sun is not powerful that day. So that is the result of the cloud. So the land on the other side of the cloud is not is affected, but the sun is not affected. Like that, you keep sattva, rajas, and tamas as as the border. On the other side is the mind, and on the other side is the consciousness. The two sides of the sattva, rajas, and tamas. There's consciousness on one side and the mind on the other side. So the sattva, rajas, and tamas affects the mind. It does not affect the consciousness. So that you have to understand. So the controlling thing we have is the mind, and we can manage that mind. That's what comes later on. So the jiva is of the same nature as Ishvara, but Ishvara he behaves differently than the jiva because the Ishvara's proclivities are different from the proclivities of the jiva. The gunas bind the Ishvara in the body means the jiva, ignorant of his nature, he does not know he is the consciousness. He identifies with the body. The body has gunas. Body includes mind also. So he identifies with the body, and therefore he contracts the gunas of the body. If I don't identify with the body, the gunas don't have any impact on me. And that is what a Jivan Mukta is, one who is liberated. He has disassociated from the body, and therefore he is not affected by the gunas of the body and mind. So the jiva experiences gunas, and this interaction with the gunas is bondage. Now, when I say I'm the body and I'm not the consciousness of the Atma, I have these gunas, and these gunas drive me. I allow the gunas to drive me how to behave. That is where we have the control to control the gunas. Now, the pure water absorbs the dust of the environment as it falls through space, and our mind is like that. It has absorbed the gunas, and therefore we behave differently. Sattvam Raja Tamaha iti.
Sattvam Rajaha Tamaha iti. Sattvam Rajaha Tamaha iti.
Gunaha Prakriti Sambhavaha.
Gunaha Prakriti Sambhavaha. Guṇāh prakriti sambhavāh
Nibadhanti mahabhaho.
Nibadhanti mahabāho Nibadhanti mahabāho
Dehe dehinam avyayam.
Dehe dehinam avyayam Dehe dehinam avyayam
Sattvam rajastama iti guna prakriti sambhava nibadhanti mahabhaho dehe dehinam avyayam.
Sattvam rajastama iti guṇāh prakriti sambhavāh Nibadhanti mahabāho Dehe dehinam avyayam Sattvam rajastama iti guṇāh prakriti sambhavāh Nibadhanti mahabāho Dehe dehinam avyayam
3, 4, and 5.
Mamayo nirmahat brahma Tasmin garbham dadhavyaham Sambhavah sarva bhutanam Tato bhavati bharata Sarvayonishu kaunteya Murteya sambhavanti yaha Tasam brahma mahadyonihi Aham Veda Pradapita Sattvam Rajastama iti Guna Prakriti Sambhavaha Nibadhanti Mahabhaho Dehe Dehinam Avyayam.
So here he says the sattva, rajas, and tamas binds the deha binds the dehi to the deha. It binds the ketrajna into the body. Body again, as I said, includes both mind and physical body. So how the sattva, rajas, and tamas bind the body, bind the ketrajna, the dehi to the deha is being described in the next 3 verses. Tatra sattvam nirmalatvat prakashakamanhamayam sukha sangyena badhnati jnana sangyena chanagha. Anagha is a word which is one who is free of any defects, a blemishless person. Tatra, in that among the 3, tatra is to be understood as among the sattva, rajas, and tamas. Sattvam nirmalatvat. The sattva is of the nature of purity. Nirmala. Mala is dirt. Nirmala is one which is free of dirt. So the sattva is of the nature of purity. Prakashakam anamayam. Prakashanam anamayam again it is without amaya is like defect in body, in like affliction. Affliction is a better word, yes. So amaya is affliction, anamaya is without affliction, and prakashakam means it is awareness. You see how we have to take the prakashakam in this conscience, in the plane of consciousness. What it means is, see, when the sun is bright, we say it is prakasha. It is prakasha with respect to the physical entity of light. Now here prakashakam is something that is to be associated with consciousness. Consciousness is what makes us aware of things, and therefore this prakashakam anamayam, being without any afflictions, and it is of the nature of awareness. Sukha sangyena cha jnana sangyena badhnati, finds the jiva in happiness and knowledge. So instead of blemishness, you say without affliction, then if we don't have any affliction, we are enjoying sukha, happiness. So that this anamayam it causes the jiva to be enjoying sukha, and the prakashakam allows the individual to be associated with jnana, And therefore, what is the nature of this sukha and jnana? We will further develop that nature. But for now, so this sukha is caused by having no affliction. This because of the sattva guna has no affliction associated with it. And prakashikam, it is of the nature of awareness, because like when the sun lights, the universe, the objects around us come to be awareness, come to the state of awareness. Like that here, the prakashaka in the body, what is the entity that is causing the awareness? The prakashakam, the light in the body, that is the consciousness, and therefore it creates an awareness in us. So these two are what binds the jiva in happiness and knowledge. So the on the surface of it, what is wrong if I'm engaged or bonded in happiness and knowledge? It's two good things. Why not? Yes, to some extent, yeah, that is true. But when we see that in its full scope, we will understand why it is being described as not something to pursue further. So among them, the sattva, being stainless and is luminous and unhindered, binds the being in bondage to happiness and to knowledge. So these are the two characteristics: nirmalatva, prakashakam, anamayam. Prakashakam, anamayam are the two characteristics. Nirmalatva is its true nature. That is sattva. So the sattva, which is pure like crystal, is of the nature of enlightening. If you take a crystal, the light falling on it is fully helps us to be aware of the crystal itself, because there is no, if light falling on a wood piece does not enlighten the wood as much as the same light falling on the crystal. So in that sense, the nature of enlightening is said. It is blemishless and beneficial. Beneficial means without affliction, will bind the Atma in the body in enjoying happiness. I'm happy. I'm happy because I have no affliction, and I am knowledgeable because I understand everything. I understand everything. Now we will have to dig further into what is that happiness, what is that understanding. So being pure like a crystal, it is of the nature of awareness, and with awareness comes happiness and knowledge. I know this. I know physics very well. Is and like a happiness. That's a state of happiness. We get awards. You get the first rank, you get an award. That is a happiness, and that happiness is coming out of the knowledge I have displayed in that particular event, competition, or exam, or whatever it is. So these things releases the mind from ignorance of the sense objects, not the self that we are talking about. That is what it comes later on. Anamaya is saukya, without affliction, comfort or well-being, and free of laziness. Those are all the characteristics that are associated with sattva guna. Now, what is this happiness? Why is it that Krishna is saying this is not, this happiness binds the Atma in the body? And why is it that he is kind of putting it on a lower light, a lesser light? Happiness is objectified and superimposed on the Atma. Now, what is happening is Atma is of the nature of bliss. Like you're in the deep sleep, you are very happy. Yeah, at least you know that after you get up in the morning. You didn't know at that time. That is because of the ignorance. Now you compare the happiness you had in the night when you were sleeping, or the bliss you had in the sleep, and then the happiness that you derive from, let us say, a relationship. Yep, either a relationship or any object, ice cream eating, or whatever you look at it. So this happiness you derive from the sense objects meaning both people and other objects, and then the happiness that you enjoy in deep sleep, Now, which is better? Which would you rather prefer? If you can have both the happiness of the deep sleep in your waking state, that is one kind, and the other kind is the happiness of eating ice cream or gulab jamun or something like that. Which is the happiness you would rather prefer? You would prefer the happiness of the deep sleep, and you should know it. That is the happiness of the Atma. Whereas this happiness you derive from relationships with other people or with other sense objects or whatever it is, that is what is called the objectified happiness. This objectified happiness is superimposed on the real happiness. The happiness that I enjoyed last night is now covered, appears to be covered by the happiness I'm having in a relationship or with respect to attaining some merit or something like that. So that is the objectified happiness. So the objectified happiness is superimposed on the real happiness, that is the bliss of the Atma. And since I don't know the real nature of that bliss, I don't see that in my waking state, I think that this objectified happiness is everything. This objectified happiness is the limit of the happiness that I can get. Whereas I know that I get a much higher level of happiness in the deep sleep. That is my experience in the deep sleep when reflected in the waking state. So this happiness of the Atma is the happiness within that is already there. I don't know how to enjoy it, but I enjoy a happiness out of objects of the universe, objects of the Prakriti, and I enjoy it. I want to get more of that. And I get more, I engage with Prakriti more and more I engage with Prakriti, the more and more happiness, let us say, I get. So I am bonded to this Prakriti and I'm not living my essential state of the Atma. So the Sattva Guna does enthuses Jiva in happiness, that is, and object knowledge, and binds him through them. This happiness, objectified happiness and objectified knowledge is what we consider as the great achievements, and we are bonded to that in our activities. Yet, why does it bind the Jiva in happiness and knowledge? That's a question. So the happiness and knowledge is not the happiness and knowledge of the Atma. It's only the object knowledge and object happiness. We are not getting the internal inherent happiness, internal inherent awareness of the Atma, that knowledge we don't have. So it's the knowledge of the sense objects and the happiness emerging out of the knowledge of sense objects. I know that this is, I solved this physics problem. That is the knowledge of the sense object of the physics. And I feel happy about it. Two things. I get the knowledge of the physics, that particular question or whatever it is, and then I'm happy about it. So that happiness is emerging out of the happiness of the sense of the association with the sense objects. But I still don't know my real happiness. As much as I engage myself in the universe, I am happy with that objectified happiness. I don't know my real happiness, and I do the similar things again and again and again. And for that, I have to enjoy the benefits of doing again and again and again that a good, even as it as a good event, a good activity, but I have to come back to enjoy them in the next life. And we don't know whether we'll continue to do the same thing. Our intellect will not be the same this time around and next time around. So we may, something else, we may get into bad company or something like that, and we may lose all of that. But then it puts me in a different bondage that we will see in the Rajas and Tamas Guna. So this enthusiasm binds the sentiency in happiness and knowledge, and the Jiva engages in activities that gives rise to that happiness and knowledge, and that is the bondage. So this sukha, we saw in the 13th chapter, Krishna describes the kshetra, the characteristics of kshetra. Ichha, dvesha, sukham, dukkam, sanghatas, chetana, dhrutihi. All this knowledge, chetana, this object knowledge, is all kshetra dharmas. They are all the characteristics of the kshetra. But I know I am not the kshetra, I am the kshetrajna, and therefore I have to wean myself from the kshetra dharma, that is the object happiness, object knowledge, and I have to focus on the inherent happiness, that is the kshetrajna himself. So the happiness and sentiency are categorized as kshetra dharma there in the 13th chapter. Kshetra dharma does not attach to the Atma. The Atma enlightens the kshetra, but it does not attach to the Atma. Therefore, this person lacking discrimination between subject Atma and object happiness, due to his dharma of avidya, see, I don't know my real nature. That is my dharma, it has become. It engages him in the experience of objectified happiness. That is not the nature of Atma. This objectified happiness could go up and down. It's one day it's a little higher, next day it's a little lower. There is a variations in the objectified happiness, but the Atma is not like that. It is not a varying bliss. It is a uniformly constant bliss, always there, whereas the object happiness is not always there. That's the difference between them. So Sattva Guna makes it detached to the attached. The Atma is detached, but Sattva Guna forces him to attach to that particular object, and inherent bliss appears to as object happiness. The inherent happiness I am is covered by this object happiness, and I say that is the real happiness for me. Likewise, Sattva also binds the Atma in objectified knowledge. Objectified knowledge is knowledge of the object captured in my mind because of the presence of the Atma, which is of the nature of consciousness. Therefore, I am considering, see, that knowledge of the consciousness, that of the Atma, it gives me a lot more knowledge than the object knowledge that I am enjoying of a particular object or a particular study area or whatever it is. And therefore, there is a limitation to this objectified knowledge, whereas the Atma is a limitless knowledge. So he is devoted in dharma. This person with a Sattva Guna, he is devoted in dharma because he has knowledge of the object. He knows which is right, which is wrong. So he is devoted in dharma and engaged in the welfare of the society. He feels good helping people. Yes, that is some amount of happiness, some amount of comfort. He is non-violent to everyone and benefits society. Because of the object knowledge, he knows that everyone feels the pain. If I have experienced the pain, then he also experienced the pain. Therefore, he remains non-violent, and therefore he is beneficial to society. This is, I am helping the society. I am enjoying this dharma. I am enjoying this happiness. Is a bondage because I will have to come back to experience the fruits of all my actions that I do in this life. So he has to transcend Sattva Guna also to attain the ultimate liberation. Though Sattva Guna gives you the maximum comfort and happiness, that is still limited with respect to the happiness and comfort you can get in living in Atma. That is what we are ignorant of. And therefore, we have to, in order to, how do I get to that state of unlimited happiness and comfort? I have to transcend Sattva Guna also. That is how the ultimate liberation is attained. Okay, let's finish this and then we'll move on. Tatra sattvam nirmalatvat.
Tatra sattvam nirmalatvat. Tatra sattvam nirmalatvat.
Prakashakam anamayam.
Prakashakam anamayam. Prakashakam anamayam.
Sukha sangena badhnati.
Sukha sangena badhnati. Sukha sangena badhnati.
Jnana sangena cha anagha.
Jnana sangena cha anagha. Jnana sangena cha anagha.
Tatra sattvam nirmalatvat. Prakashakam anamayam. Sukha sangena badhnati. Jnana Sangena Chanaga.
Tatra Sattvam Nirmalatvat Prakashakamaнаmayam Sukha-sangena Bhadnati Jnana-sangena Chanaga. Tatra Sattvam Nirmalatvat Prakashakamaнаmayam Sukha-sangena Bhadnati Jnana-sangena Chanaga.
4, 5, and 6.
सर्वयोनिषु कौन्तेय मूर्तयः सम्भवन्ति याः तासां ब्रह्म महद्योनिः अहं बीजप्रदः पिता। सत्त्वं रजस्तम इति गुणाः प्रकृतिसम्भवाः निबध्नन्ति महाबाहो देहे देहिनमव्ययम्। तत्र सत्त्वं निर्मलत्वात् प्रकाशकमनामयं सुखसङ्गेन बध्नाति ज्ञानसङ्गेन चानघा.
I will go to this later on. The next verse. Rajo Ragatmakam Vidhi Trishna Sanga Samudbhavam Tanni Badhnati Kaunteya Karma Sangena Dehinam. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamiva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Sarvam Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.
I have one comment.
Hmm.
Dr. Jairam is doing Mahabharata classes. In that, it will be how the Prajapati was the first person, and then he had so many wives, and then so many creations came. Probably he can explain that better to give you an idea how the Puranic way of explaining the Srishti.
You want to do it now, Jairam, or you want to do it next class? It's kind of late. You prepare for it and do it in the next class. The Purana describes slightly differently, and that is because the same knowledge is being given to different people in different medium. Purana is one medium like that, and so this Prajapati had different wives and all, and then there is this Kashyapa. Kashyapa is one who is endowed with this in Puranas, that he marries so many wives, and he marries who is that Pannaga, anyway, once one wife, all these reptiles come into existence, another wife, all the birds come into existence, like that. So we'll see that in the next class.
Thank you, Andy.
Namaste, everyone.